This morning on Consumer Watch, what's in the trunk of your car? It's important to know because in a crash, that cargo could pose a serious threat. Our consumer correspondent Susan Copen is here with this story. Good morning, Susan.
Hi, Hannah. Golf clubs, a suitcase, even a case of soda. They are all very common things we put in the trunk. But during an accident, they can become deadly, actually crashing through the back seat.
Ludi Galeana was a beauty, a commercial actress who fled Cuba, seeking a better life for herself and her children.
Did she know she was pretty?
I think so.
Alex Galeana was the baby of the family. The last time he saw his 73-year-old mother alive, she was getting into the backseat of a car after a family get-together.
About 9:30 in the evening, I received a phone call from my uncle. He wasn't altogether at that point.
There had been a terrible accident on the way home. Ludi's car had been hit head-on by a pickup truck. Even though she was wearing a seatbelt, she was pronounced dead at the scene.
She was in the rear seat, the safest part of the vehicle, they tell us. I mean, she was in the safest part of the vehicle, and out of 6 people, she's the only one that died.
What killed Ludi Galeana surprised not just her family, but even the investigators on the scene. During the crash, a small toolbox in the trunk went flying. It broke the back seat, slamming it forward. Ludi was crushed against her seatbelt. Would she have survived if that seat stayed in place?
Absolutely.
Alan Cantor is an auto safety expert who was hired by the Galeana family to investigate Ludi's death. He investigates many cases involving cargo crashing through back seats, often reenacting what happened. This is one of his crash tests. Watch as this small suitcase breaks through the back seat. Imagine what would have happened to the passengers sitting there. A 25-pound suitcase is enough to go crashing through that back seat?
Yes.
Enough to kill somebody?
Yes.
And it's not just suitcases in the trunk that can pose a risk. Cantor says any heavy solid object, like these in our trunk, can be dangerous. Even your spare tire, if it's not properly secured. The problem, the way rear seats are made. They aren't always strong enough to hold back cargo in a crash. Cantor showed us the rear seat in a car identical to the one in the Galeana case. Why was this seat able to fail and fall forward?
This thin wire is attached to a sheet metal clip right back here, and that's the only thing that holds the top of the seat in.
That doesn't seem like a lot.
It's not.
This looks like something you would hang your clothes on. It doesn't look like something that would support an entire seat.
I agree.
Believe it or not, here in the United States, car manufacturers are not required to test their back seats to make sure they protect passengers against cargo. What do you say about those? Cantor says we need stronger regulations, like those in Europe, where every car sold must pass a stringent cargo test.
The European standard calls for 2 40-pound suitcases to be placed back towards the side of the car that we're standing on, and they run a 30-mile-an-hour crash test, and the suitcases are not allowed to intrude into the back seat significantly.
European automakers say every model they sell in the United States also meets this standard. Regardless of what kind of car you have, Cantor says there are things you can do to reduce your risk.
The first thing to do is never put more in the trunk than you absolutely need. Don't carry things around all the time. It just reduces your probability. But if you're going to carry heavy things, take them and push them as close as you can to the seat and try to distribute the load so that it's even. And if you can, try to wedge them in.
Cantor says in a crash, this will reduce the force of the cargo against the seat back. It also helps to tie down any heavy items or restrain them in a cargo net. Alex Galeana says his family learned the hard way just how dangerous cargo in the trunk could be.
There's 7 grandkids. They're not going to get to see their grandmother. And she would have been around.
The car that Ludi Galeana was in met all U.S. government safety standards. Her family sued the car maker and settled out of court. Hannah.
You said that European manufacturers have very strict standards and tests for this sort of thing. Are we going to see American auto manufacturers follow suit?
A lot of the car makers we talked to in the U.S. said if they sell a car in Europe, they use the same car here in the United States. And Ford said it is going to start using the European standard on some of its cars here.
Great. Susan Copen, thanks. This is The Early Show on CBS.